I'm probably the furthest thing from a horror game fan. If you're like me and scare easily and also don't like gore very much, Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti might be a fun game to get you into the Halloween spirit, but still let you be able to fall asleep at night. Splatterhouse games are known for being over-the-top bloody and full of flying body parts, but Wanpaku Graffiti is different. Instead of being of the hacking and slashing variety, this game puts a subtle, darker twist on the traditional action platformer and cuts the gore out almost completely for a fun little walk through some disturbing places. Rick is the star of the game, and Wanpaku Graffiti opens with his resurrection. He's wearing a mask that's clearly been stolen straight off the face of Jacques Plante, and he's awake just long enough to see his girlfriend Jennifer be stolen away by the Pumpkin King. He takes off after the two of them while wielding his trusty axe, which is only one of 2 weapons that you'll have access to in the game. An interesting aspect of this game compared to other platformers is that it has an experience system that's tied directly to how much health Rick has. Killing everything you can is a must because the more enemies you murder, the longer your health bar becomes. Filling the experience meter with the blood of those you felled gives you 1 more tick on your health bar, and having more health becomes crucial later in the game when many enemy patterns become more erratic and bosses become a little bit more difficult. You're going to need all the help that you can get. If you lose all your health, you do have the chance to continue up to 4 times where you left off, and you usually respawn in the same room that you died in rather than having to restart the stage from the beginning. The game's also quite generous with its password system, allowing you to start at the beginning of an area that you're in if you want to continue after losing all of your lives or at a later date. The only downside to continuing is that you don't have the benefit of that lengthened health bar you've probably been working on if you've played from the beginning, but there are opportunities in the game to grind enemies to get your total health points to an acceptable level before endgame. The visual aesthetic of Wanpaku Graffiti is something that really drew me in. The sprites are all very big and detailed, and I really appreciate how cartoony they are. The subtlety in some of the animations, like when you get hit or when you hit various bosses, is really charming, and I can't say enough about the spooky details that are packed into each area. The sound effects were especially eerie, like that lone church bell ringing out into the night, or the chirping of crickets in the forest masking the dangers around every corner. The settings for each of the stages are suitably creepy, like haunted houses, the sewers, and the obvious cemetery choice. All of these details, paired with an amazing soundtrack, make the whole game come together as an immersive experience. Overall, the imagery has an unsettling quality about it. Although many of the game's stages and bosses are some homage to horror fiction icons, the way that they're presented in-game can be as bewildering as they are funny sometimes. All boss fights are an endurance match against things coming to life to kill you, but it's the way that they come to life that'll get the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. Possessed heads twist off of pretty dolls, headless monsters try to make you their supper, and evil spirits are raised from a satanic altar. These are just a few of the things that shook me up in my first playthrough of the game. I also appreciated how the game drove home its own evilness by regularly having things burst into flames after you defeat them. The biggest challenge around boss fights is actually figuring out what to target and what to concentrate on in all the mayhem. Sometimes you'll think you're on the right track by hacking away at cooked headless chickens when you should actually be focusing on the knives that are attempting to stab you. A little bit of trial and error will set things onto the right path, but the initial attempts at these levels might leave you feeling a little panicked, like a good horror game should. Though the game's mostly linear, there are a few hidden areas that you can venture out into in order to get the best ending of the game. I won't spoil where they are or what happens as a result of finding them, but knowing that there are some extra places to track down gives the game some replayability. There were times when I left an area wondering if there was somewhere else I could have tried to go, like in a second doorway or into a corner I haven't bothered looking into when ascending some platforms, for example. There were also some nice touches along the way that change your character's appearance or give you a chance to replenish some health. Interactivity with seemingly benign things in the background is always a welcome surprise to me in video games, and Wanpaku Graffiti does this in a very nice way. This game for me is always a favorite to pull out around this time of the year, and it's honestly a real shame that this particular Splatterhouse game didn't leave Japan. I think it's something that I really would have taken to as a kid. I used to pour myself into so many horror stories and television shows back then, and this game would have been a great way for me to experience the horror genre in a video game without needing to eviscerate everything in sight. I can't get enough of this game at any time of year, but it's especially fun to pull out as the cold weather starts to creep in for autumn. If you do decide to pick up this game though, just a word of caution. The cartridge is actually bigger than other Famicom games, which makes it impossible to play in a front-loading NES with an adapter. There are ways around it if you have an NES top-loader or another top-loading system, but I was pretty bummed after ordering it because I wasn't aware of this issue. Hopefully you'll be able to find a fix that works for you.